Right, I'm sat in the car here. I'm waiting for the latest project to arrive. It's coming by courier. I'll just give you a bit of an insight into what's happening. I bought a bike. I've known about this bike for about 7 years. Well, I've known about it for about 4 years. But the guy who had it before me has had it for 7 years and he's never been able to fix it properly. It's had engine rebuilt 4 times. This is where they're here now. I just switch off and then I'll go out now and meet him. This is the guy turning up here now. I'll just fill you in what's happening. I've not seen this before. So this is it. What have we got? It's all there anyway, which is a good start. Just going on from where I was talking about before when it turned up. It's actually the first time I've ever seen it. I've seen photographs and done a lot of talking about it. It's all there. Can't see anything radical wrong. Mud guard looks a bit too big for that word. It's not a big problem. Stainless steel, it shouldn't be stainless steel. That's what I'm not worried about, things like that. Just get this engine in. There's a big box of goodies come with it as well. So basically what's happened is this engine burns oil for fun. Not just burns oil, it actually stops the traffic. You can't ride it, it's that bad. He says if you do this on the road, you get stopped by the police because the smoke's that bad. And he's had the engine rebuilt 4 times, as I know of. He's saying we don't know what's happened before he got it, he doesn't know much history of it, but he's had it rebuilt 4 times and it's exactly the same. Reboard, new pistons, valve guides, all the normal suspects you would get when you have a burning oil. So whatever it is that these people who've been dealing with it, they're missing the problem. Now I don't know what the problem is. I have some suspicions, and I'm going to do some testing and see what we can find. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to see what's in this box of goodies now, and we'll carry on. Now 5TA. Just to recap of what I was doing before, I don't know if I've gone over this before or not, but this thing was burning oil for fun. I've not actually seen it myself, but I bought it with this fault on. It's been on for years. The barrels were off and the pistons were off, but if you look at these pistons, they're too tight. Why somebody would think that that is acceptable, to build an engine with a... There's no rings in this thing. I can't get that damn thing out now. Why somebody would think that that's acceptable is absolutely beyond me. When you put the rings in and gap the rings in, there's no gap in the rings, so it's bonkers. It's absolutely balmy. So this barrels have been bored out and had liners fitted. Now that's an aftermarket thing because they didn't have liners on from the original, and there's a lot of jiggery pokery going on here. The guy's bored this out, he's put some liners in, and apparently the liners moved. So what he's done, he's tack welded them in. He's tack welded them in there, and so it's just crazy. Anyway, I've abandoned these barrels. I've got myself a different set of barrels, second-hand ones, the plus 40. They look like they've been owned out or bored out on the plus 40. So I bought some new pistons and I put them on, and they're a little bit slacker than I would like them to be perfect in the balls, but they're okay. They're alright. To be honest, I'd rather have things that's slacker than tighter in an engine. I don't think there's a problem with that things, as long as it's not unbelievably slack. But they're a little bit slacker in the bores than what I would like them, but they're alright. Now what I'm going to do now is put the barrels on, but this is just going through for any kind of, again, amateur mechanics. I'm not trying to tell the professionals how to do a job, but when you're putting barrels on a set of pistons like this, particularly when it's a twin cylinder and both pistons rise together, is really tricky, because you've got to get the barrels on here dead square, get all them rings compressed up without breaking one. Now whoever built this engine before actually broke a ring putting it in, and they assembled it with a piece broke off the oil ring, which, you know, it just shows that the competence of some people. But it's dead easy to do, because if you try to assemble this lot without supporting these pistons, I'll just show you what happens. I've made these wooden blocks, so as you're trying to put the barrels on, what happens is they kick around like this moves about like that kicks about, the piston goes up and down, and you end up, the thing gets jammed. So what you need to do is to support this piston and stop it moving as much as possible by putting some wooden blocks in or something to stop it moving about like that. You also want to get somewhere down here to make sure nothing falls in the bottom. But some nice pieces of wood where it's no shavings or sawdust going to fall in the bottom. If you can support that piston, so that's not got it yet. I'm trying to work one-handed again. So you can block that up, so when you put the barrels on, they don't move about. Then it's a lot easier. And also, we do something to compress these piston rings. Now it's difficult to use a piston clamp, because if you put a piston clamp on there, you can't get it off after, because it's going to be down here. But there is a dodge that I've used in the past which has always been successful, and I'll see if it'll work on this one. I'll come back in a little bit. Right, we've oiled this up, put some oil around the bore, put the cam followers in. We've tied the cam followers together at the top here with a cable tie so they can't fall down. Base gaskets in position. You don't forget to put that on, else if you build it all up and you don't put base gasket on, you have to strip it all down again. So I think we're ready to go. I think we're good to go now. Okay, when you fit in these pistons onto these twin cylinder engines, when the pistons come up together, it is a bit tricky. So the way to do it, because you can't use an ordinary piston clamp, is to cut two sheets of metal, like I say, to sheet metal, nice and smooth stuff. You got the diameter, the depth of it wants to be just enough to cover the three rings. Okay, bend it into the shape of the piston, put that round there, and then fasten it on with some zip fasteners. Just go round there with some zip fasteners and zip it on. And what happens is, when you put your cylinder on, your cylinder hits the wall of this and it slides down. Now you don't want this too thin. If it's too thin, it'll try to get between the cylinder and the piston, it'll get jammed. So you want something that's reasonably thick like that. And you don't over tighten it, just tighten it enough so as it's shoving the rings in. And with this side, there's a gap like that, in where you can actually see the ring. So if it's a bit stubborn, you can actually give it a bit of a push from one side. So you put these are on your rods, you put those on, zip fasten them on, offer your barrels in, put top your piston a good oil in, and it should go on with one quick shove, so you end up like that. This is what I've just done on this one now. So those are my two metal covers, if you like, me piston clamps. This is the cable tie, and I've just put the barrels on top, blocked them up with 2 pieces of wood. Just got it in position, one shove straight down to the bottom. Absolutely brilliant. So all you have to do now is, I'm trying to put one-handed again. Cut that, pull it out, and get that out of there after. Just wiggle it out. Same on the other side. Push the barrel to the bottom, and off you go. But it is quite tricky. It is quite tricky. Okay. Right, we're back on this Triumph with this problem that's been on for, well, at least we know at least 7 years. This engine's not run properly, not been able to get it run properly, and I think I've just found the problem. I've put this cylinder head on, put the rocker covers on, come to do the valve clearances. I can do the valve clearances on 3 of the valves. On one of them, can't get the valve clearances. Now originally that cam box was on this side. You can change them round, and it was the inlet on the right hand side over there. I couldn't get the valve clearance. There was no clearance at all. So I changed the cam box round from that side to this side. So now the problem is on this valve at this side. So it's obviously a problem with this cam box and the rocker. I'll just show you what I've checked the length of the push rods, the amount the valve comes through the heads. That's all fine. Even with the screw completely removed, see there's no tappet adjuster in there, like that one. That's a tappet adjuster. So I've taken, on the front one, I've taken that out completely. That's your adjustment. That valve is in the down position, so this valve has got to be in the up position. So even, let's just get into the right position of the camera. So even, get the light in that, so even with that the inlet valve is completely open, so the exhaust valve should be completely closed. So we've got to have some clearance there. There's no clearance in that valve. Even with the tappet adjuster out, there's nothing there. Can't move it. There's no free play. What happens is, if you turn the engine, you'll hear that actually slip off the valve, slightly open the valve, then slips off the valve, and then it jams the valve open, and it's stuck. Jams the valve open, and it's stuck then. It's bonkers. You couldn't make it up. So it's obviously that this part here is wrong. Can't see anything wrong with it at the moment. It looks exactly like the other one, but there's something wrong with it. So I'm going to have to take the cam box off, take this out, and have a look at that and compare it with the one on the other side. There's something wrong in there, because there's no movement in that whatsoever. So how somebody can keep assembling an engine and not get the valve clearances is frankly beyond me. Okay. But this is the cam box off, and I can't see anything wrong with it. I've tried measuring it to the other one. It looks exactly the same. They're not tight. Everything moves okay. There's got to be something wrong with it, but I can't see anything at the moment that's wrong. But there's got to be something wrong with it. I must have had it put it on, took it off 5-6 times. So it was obvious there was something wrong with it. So basically I went on the internet, asked about, I had some suggestions. Was there a known problem? I asked a couple of mates of mine and they haven't had it come across it. and I decided there was something wrong with the rocker box, or the rocker shaft, this thing, the rocker assembly, the shaft and the rockers. There was something to do with this rocker assembly. There was a problem with it, so I couldn't see it. I tried measuring it and all sorts. So basically I went to it and I bought 2 replacement rocker boxes off eBay. I put the one on the inlet. As soon as I put it on, I've cured the problem. I can now get a valve clearance. So I've been trying to find out what the problem is. I've been measuring it all sorts, and a fellow on the internet suggested, he'd searched for the internet as well for me, and he suggested there was a problem with an historical problem with the handle or the material on the bottom of these cams here. Basically what was happening was, let's just put this in position. What was happening was, that's your rocker assembly. I've mocked this up on a piece of wood. I've drilled a hole in a piece of wood and I put this drill in there, and this is acting as the rocker shaft. This is the rocker. Okay, and that I put the piece of wood here as a datum point, so it goes back to exactly the same place. What was happening was, I couldn't get any clearance here on this like that. When it was in position, even with the adjuster out, get the adjuster here. This now adjuster screws into there. It should peep through. I don't know how far it peeps through. Not so far. Right. So it should peep through like that. Right. And I couldn't get any clearance here. Nothing. Even taking this out completely, there was still no clearance. On the other side of the bike, I could do that. With this screw out, the rocker will move loads. But on this side, I can't get any clearance at all. So I take the rocker screw out, and it's tight. So I take it out and I measure it up, and I can't see anything wrong with it. So a fellow on the internet suggested there was an historical problem with the catching the valve spring top, the cover, the retainer, right? And the problem is when all this lot is built into this and it's on the back, you can't see any of this lot. It's all hidden. So what I've done, I've drilled a hole in a piece of wood, stuck my drill in there, which is the same size as this, mounted all this up, so I've got some datum points to measure from. So I've got that point touching that piece of wood there, so it goes back in exactly the same place. I've marked the wood so I know if it's moved, and I've put some scribe lines on here, scribing where this comes to, where the handle of these and what have you. And it's really interesting, this, it's really interesting. I'll put that under, let's try the other one on. See, that's a little bit further down, there's a little bit more, there's a bit more meat on that, you can see there, than not really, it's not in it, there's nothing in it, couplers down. Right, so what I've done, I've mocked all this up, and I've got a bolt here. What I've done, it's difficult to explain this. This is where you assume that's going to push on the valve stem, and it's got to be in line. That valve stem must be in line with that, because you can't have it pushing at an handle. It's got to hit it fairly much straight on that, so it's pushing down. So what I've done, I've take this out. I've made up this, and what this is this is 1 inch across there. Now that is to simulate the top of the valve retainer, because that's a 1-inch diameter retainer. The spring will be 1-inch diameter as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is screw that into there. Let me just put this down a second. Right, so what I've got now is a bolt into that threaded portion, which is in line with that. That will be the line of the stem. That will be the center line of the stem of the valve. Right. So if you offer this up, it starts to catch. My pencil's got on the floor. The edge of that there starts to catch that rocker assembly at that point. You look at that distance there. Okay, so that's catching there. This is the same diameter as the retainer for the spring. The distance, it's got to be the top of the there's got to be a distance between there and there. The valve, top of the valve is actually here like that, right? And that's where your valve clearance is. Now that now is catching there. And if I change that and put the other one on, that goes a lot farther up. You see there, it's a lot, that gap is a lot further before it starts catching. It's about, I think the other one starts catching around about there. The other one catches there, and on this one there's like a gap there. It's all very close. It's crazy close. It's crazy close. So what was happening was when this was in position, when the push rod's up here, that was on, the valve can't move because the valve spring is sitting there. An adjustment, because this adjuster wasn't doing anything. You could screw it out and the rocker couldn't go any further this way because the push rod's stopping it, and it can't go down because the valve spring was stopping it, so you can't get any clearance here. And what happened was, when you started the engine up, the rocker would come down and kick the valve spring over like that and jam the valve open. So the valve was open all the time. And once it was open, even when it come back, well, it didn't come back. It stuck open like that. It's bonkers. I'll see if I can show it a little bit better. Just a second. This might illustrate it a little bit better. It's difficult to explain, but you can see this is the retainer on the valve spring. As that goes up there, it hits that, and then it starts to cam over. Like that. Now I'll put the other one on. This is the one that was giving me a problem. this is the other one, the new one. Look at that. See, it goes up a lot further before it gets interfered with the. See, it's right up. The other ones, when it gets to that position, it's kicking the valve over. With this one in that position, there's a bit of clearance. So it's literally a couple of thou off that surface there that needs taking off. But it's this one. That one's the problem. It's that surface there. It's literally, it's nothing. But it runs now. The bike runs now. It doesn't smoke. It's still not right because there's other issues with the carburetor's worn to blazes. But it doesn't smoke. I had this running yesterday. No smoke whatsoever. I rang the guy up who had the bike and I said, did it smoke from cold? He says, as soon as he kicked it over, he says the smoke was horrendous. So it was obviously unburnt fuel. So if you have one of these bikes, you need to be aware of that. And apparently it is a known problem. I've never heard of it, and I've spoke to a few people who've never heard of it. But one guy did search it on the internet and he found some reference to it. Alright, bye. I've just made this mandrel here for try and see this a bit better. So basically I've put this mandrel in the tappet adjuster, and this is a better fit now. So if I offer this into there, you see that starts to catch there. That's catching there now. Look at the size of the gap. When I get to there, it starts to kick over. That's catching there now. And to take that off, yeah, I'm coming in now. Look how much closer that is. That's barely catching it all, and that's the difference. Right, we're going to give this bike a run. I've just fitted a Chinese carburetor on it. Took the carburetor off that was on, an Amel carburetor, and I fitted this Chinese carburetor on this morning. Just connect the ignition up. Fuel on. Right, things we've found really was the ignition timing was out, but this carburetor that was on, this, when I checked the numbers, the numbers there, numbers, I don't know if you can see it now, 37533, it's off an aerial error. So it's a 2-stroke twin 250. This is a 500 4-stroke. I don't know what needles in it or jets or anything else. I've checked the jets seem to be alright, but the slide's worn. I ordered that carburetor off eBay. It's a Chinese carburetor, and I've had to just open the holes out here so it fits these stud holes. I think it's a 30mm, I think. I put it on, it started, first kick, absolutely first kick. Tick over's a bit fast, but I'll do something like that. I'm absolutely made up. Right, just a recap of where we're up to with this Triumph 5TA. But I've gone over the story before that with all this smoking and if you've watched the video of the pistons that was wrong, the welded liners and all that caper. I got it running and I found the major fault was the rocker arm on this side was holding the valve open. That was the major fault. So I sorted that, got the valve clearances, I got the bike running, but it wasn't right. It was running, but it sounded absolutely awful. There was a bit of smoke, but it was like really lumpy. Bad starting. You had to flood it to start. It wouldn't tick over. There's all sorts of things. So basically, what have we done to this bike? What faults have we found? So just going over the faults. The ignition timing was out. It was way advanced. The pistons were tight in the bores. The bores was welded, so I put new barrels and pistons on. Then we find that the rocker is jamming the valve open, so we sorted that, got some new rocker covers, that's sorted. Still running rough. The carburetor was wrong. The carburetor was off an aerial arrow. This is the carburetor here. The jets appear to be right, but it's worn to blazes. I had it running yesterday. It was awful. So a couple of days ago I ordered this carburetor off eBay, this Chinese carburetor. I've had to open the holes out here to make it fit, and that's cured it. So I'm up to rewiring it. I've rewired it all. I've changed all the wiring, all was tidying up, but it's going to have rewiring it 12 volts. I've bought a 12 volt voltage regulator rectifier. I sorted out sorted the wire on the alternator. I've got to make sure that's all right here. I've not kind of tested that. I've tested the oil to see if it's recovered in the tank. The oil is recovering, so it's scavenging back into the tank, so the oil feed's okay. So it's just a matter of just finishing it off now, really. Waiting for a battery to come. I've ordered a new battery. So there we go.